Hello everyone and a warm welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about shamanism, or better said the shamanic experience when practicing shamanism. So, as you know, shamans enter a trance, or better said, they always are in this state of trance where they perceive differently than other people. That's why a lot of shamans in Europe are actually closed away in psychiatric clinics and stuff like that. So, to explain that scientifically to you very quickly, if a normal person enters trance, they do so over repetitive beating of drums, repetitive sounds like mantras, repetitive movements. And what happens, as science has proven, is during that, the brain waves synchronize. So, usually during your everyday life, your right brainwave will be in alpha and your left brainwave will be in beta. And what usually happens, because these are kind of not on the same wavelength, so one has to find the dominance, okay? And what usually happens is that the left brainwave dominates the right brainwave because the left brain is more about structure, organization, rational thinking. And that's what the outside system is about, right? So that's why usually the left brain wave takes over and we are thinking in this very let's say ego terms, so to speak. Yeah, and it's very rational, very mental. And then when we go into trance, these things kind of balance themselves out and the right brainwave gets stronger. So the intuition gets stronger, the inner guidance gets stronger, the visions get stronger. Okay? And with a shaman, it's not exactly the same. Like, I can tell from my own life that there are days where my right brain waves are way stronger than my left brain waves, and I cannot really control what happens on these days. I just have to go with the flow. And for sure, I can control energies, and for sure, I know the exercises to balance that. But also, as a shaman, I have to trust what shows itself to me and go with what shows itself, rather than just saying, oh no, you're not welcome here, go away. Yeah, I first have to really look at what shows itself, because to me everything is interconnected. Yeah. Okay. So just this as a quick explanation. So usually people will enter the state through dancing, through movement, through singing, through music all together. And I'm in this state usually. Like, if I don't want to be in this state, I really have to close myself down. I have to do an exercise to kind of de-trance myself. So, when I am in trance and working with somebody, and that's what I actually wanted to dive into today, is first, when I start working with them, I usually see a lot of foreign energies on their aura. Like, to me, they kind of look like very weird, funky insects, so to speak. Yeah. So, they have so many legs and so many eyes and so many wings, and they are colored in colors that I've never seen on planet Earth. Like, the only time I've seen these colors is when I was on ayahuasca. So they are very metaphysical beings, and with their like they they're not bad intentioned. Yeah, it's just that they are there in the astral field, and whenever somebody has these tiny cuts in their aura, they will go there and kind of suck. Yeah, they suck the emotions, they suck the thoughts and all that stuff, because it's energy. So how does that work? So every person that's born from an energetic point of view is like this whole bubble. Yeah, you're whole. You're a whole bubble. Let's say a soap bubble, a beautiful little soap bubble filled with cosmic energy, which is the soul. And then during our childhood, things happen, and this is happening to everyone because it's the way to be right now. This ball gets injured. Yeah, it goes through traumatic experiences, and that's because we as humans need to make sense out of things. So when things happen, we tell ourselves stories about what is happening. Yeah, that's just how we work. And it's actually the stories who are the thing that keeps us stuck there. So let's say you are born as this beautiful bubble of love and light into a family where you don't really have love and space. Yeah? And that's just a fact. Like, these people are not like really able to give you that. But the story that we tell ourselves is that we are not lovable the way we are, and that we do not deserve space the way we are. But that's just the story we tell ourselves, yeah? Nobody ever like really said that, or nobody ever really intentioned that. It's the story we tell ourselves. And all these stories and all these experiences give like these little cuts and rips in this energy field, yeah? And then as we grow older, we will start to understand that there are these cuts in our energy field because, no matter what happened in our childhood, it was bad. I never want to talk anybody out of like having a bad experience. There are a lot of people I know that had like horrible childhoods. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that. And not just like, oh yeah, nobody knew it better and it wasn't intentional. Yeah, it wasn't intentional, but it hurt. And the first like step towards healing is always to understand that, fuck yeah, like, I don't want to be above that anymore. I really want to face that part of me that was hurt there and that I kind of left there. And because I don't acknowledge that part's pain, I left it there. And whenever a new situation arises that mirrors the story that I told myself back then, I will go back into that hurt. And I will be 5 years old again. It like showing in my reactions or whatever, yeah? And these are these tiny rips and cuts in our field. And as sad and painful as it is, this is part of the human evolution, yeah? We come here as this bubble, we break, and then we repair ourselves, and then the real thing starts, yeah? And nobody can like spiritually bypass this journey. It's not possible. So what I really love about the shamanic approach is that we can do that, like going back there and get those parts through movement. So we can do it with dancing, yeah? And like if you are a person that likes to move their body or like dance anyways, it's such a beautiful thing because when you are in this physical like expression, yeah, of like everything that moves you, and you just like listen to the wisdom of your physical body, and then you go back to that part that was really hurt and you invite it for a dance, and you say, hey, why don't you express everything that hurt you so much back then in a dance? And then it's actually fun. I didn't expect it, but then I can travel back to that pain and dance with it and kind of move this part of me that got stuck there towards where I am now. Yeah? So now I went a little bit ahead because, first of all, what I wanted to say is that whenever we have these like rips and cuts in our energy field, it's actually every time that something happens again that kind of like would feed into the story. Yeah? So let's say we're in love with somebody and we get rejected. So what that is simply that this person is not our person, because if it was our person, we would not get rejected. That's fact. But the story can be the same. Oh, I'm not lovable. Oh, I don't deserve space. Oh, I don't deserve love. Yeah? And that stays this way as long as we keep that one hurt part of ourselves in the past. And when we are in this state, there are these insects that I described before, and they are kind of all over these wounds, like all over these cuts and rips in the auric field, and they feed from the energy, yeah? Because it's one thing that this happens on the outside, but if you then go home and you suffer for a week because this person has rejected you, and it's not the rejection that you suffer, it's the voice in your head that tells you you're not lovable, you will never find love, you're not lovable, you will never find love. Yeah, and that's your own voice. And what these insects do is, as I said, they're like ants, so when ants find sugar somewhere, they will stay where they find sugar. And if they find a way to get more sugar out of that, they will do that. And that's kind of what these insects do. So a lot of times when we suffer, it's actually from a shamanic point of view. These kind of energies and little entities like these insects that like kind of are feeding on your pain. And so the first thing we do is we remove these insects. And the beautiful thing about these insects is, and I really don't want to consider them bad, because in the end they are, yeah? And without them being there, I don't know how quickly we would understand. Maybe we would need like 300 years of life experience to understand where our cuts are. But because these insects are there and they kind of also influence how we perceive everyday life, they kind of enhance the pain that we're in so that we can confront it. Yeah? That's why I don't see them as necessarily bad. Still, they are not where they are supposed to. This is not their place to be within your aura, and that's why I take them out. And what I really like about them is that they are really reacting to sound, or at least that's one of my tools as a shaman. So I have these very special kinds of chants that like hypnotize them and take them out of your field. And then I have other techniques that will close the wound in your field so they will not attach themselves anymore. And yeah, I really like, it's a very interesting work to do. And what I love even more is like the part that comes afterwards, because afterwards we will look into how you can close these cuts. Yeah, and that has a lot to do with getting all the parts that were frozen along the journey somewhere in the past because you decided that they are not fitting in, or you thought, because the outside suggested it to you, that you have to cut this part off to be lovable, to deserve space. Yeah, and like shamanic work has a lot to do with just getting these parts back. You can imagine like if you would be like, you stand here right now and behind you is all your life. Okay, so in my case this would be 35 years. 35 times 365, so that's a lot of days. Yeah, and then we kind of see that in some situations some parts of us were frozen and they kind of just keep on standing there. And because we never acknowledge their pain, they will not move. And that's where shamanic dancing comes in. And that's why I'm sorry, I already said some of it. Because what we can do is we can dance there. And we can invite these parts to dance with us. And we can acknowledge their pain through physical expression, It's not about going to a psychotherapist and sitting there and being like, oh yeah, now I have to be sorry for that 15-year-old me that I kind of abandoned. Because that's a mental thing. It's not here. But to dance with that part, to just invite it to you and say, hey, okay, 15-year-old me that got abandoned for its wildness. How would you dance right now? What do you have to say to older me who kind of abandoned you? Or if you were like beaten up by the people in school, what would you tell them right now? And I'm here and I acknowledge you. And there is so much magic in that and so much healing that it blows me away every time I work with that. And there's so much self-empowerment, because it doesn't really matter what kind of healing you use. The important thing is that you believe in it, yeah? And belief is not really something you choose. Belief is something that you gather over experience, yeah? So Like a lot of us will need, when they have cancer, they will need chemotherapy because it's so deeply ingrained in their system that that's the way to go. Yeah. And I, for example, I know I don't believe in chemotherapy like as a construct. I believe totally in Western medicine, but I'm not a fan of chemotherapy. So I would have to go to the jungle, and I would have to like do a proper dieta, which might not be really related to ayahuasca at all, but just like having bobinsana and having like looking at the core issue. Why did I even develop cancer? Yeah, because that's my belief system. That's how I roll. Yeah, and that doesn't mean that if I have last stage kind of cancer, that at some point in my life I would choose to get chemotherapy. Yeah, but it's so important to understand that what we believe sets the framework. Yeah, so if we are not like really sure if something will work, it will have a weird effect, most probably. Because, healing is always about self empowerment, is about understanding that you can heal, that it can get better. And that is very largely related to self worth. And because we like got raised in a system that really benefits from people in it not having self-worth, that's not really something we have. Yeah, so for lots of people it's way easier to spend like $300 on coke every weekend than $200 on a shamanic treatment. Yeah, and that's just because the self-worth is different. Yeah, and what I learned is with dancing, and I dance now since 15 years, like very regularly. With dancing, a lot of inside of me has changed without me totally having to work on it through my mind all the time. And that's what I call the wisdom of the physical body. Because we live in times where thinking is everything. Rational thought is everything. Yeah, if you can explain it rationally, it's valid. Yeah, now no matter how much we understand rationally, it will only be this percentage of truth. Yeah, and our physical body is made from earth. It's made from all the elements. Yeah, it doesn't have just one kind of understanding, the mental understanding, because it's the anchor for all our bodies. So the physical body actually has an astral understanding of things, it has a mental understanding of things, it has an emotional understanding of things, and it has a physical understanding of things. And I know that this is super hard to even grasp when we're in the beta and we're like, okay, Dada, what are you talking about? But this is something that you maybe have experienced when you really danced your heart out at a rave or somewhere else. Or I invite you to like try it. Yeah? Try to dance. Just like, what would you like to express? Not moving your body so it looks good with the music. No. Moving your body so it feels good to your soul. Yeah? So that's so different. And it will move so much that we change automatically. Yeah, because what I see like also in this wellness culture and like spiritual gaslighting culture is this, if I think it right, it will work. And they totally skip the physical body. Like all they do with the physical body is work out so they look good. And I'm totally a fan of working out, but I work out to feel good and to look good. But again, like that's just, it's the mental approach. Yeah, and so that's how we dance. No, most of times we dance how we think it looks good. We don't dance how we know it feels good. Yeah, so through that liberation, through dancing, we can actually find our true expression again, find our way back to that whole bubble. And when we remember that whole bubble that we can become that again too. Yeah? And when we fix this bubble, it won't be as it was when we were kids. Yeah? It will never be that again, because that's not what it's supposed to be. it will be like kintsugi. So all the cuts and the ribs and everything will be filled with gold because we heal it ourselves. Yeah. And then this vessel is so powerful. It's amazing. Yeah. So, like, yeah, if you're interested in working with that, you can just do it how I described it right now. You can also join Enzo Elia. We dance every Wednesday, 8 Swiss time together, and it's via Skype. So if you don't want anyone to see you, you can just switch off your camera, and the only person you will see is me instructing you how to do shamanic dancing. And yeah, everything that I like spoke of now is also related to the symbols I do, because, or the jewelry I do, because, you know, like, I believe that any kind of healing should most of all include self-empowerment. And self-empowerment comes through finding your inner core and being aligned with that, being aligned with your own truth. And for that, we need certain things, yeah, because we're all exposed to the collective fields as well. And that's why the symbols I now made into jewelry, I chose very carefully, so they're balance and protection, because I believe that when we have this protection against more of these insects that maybe create more experiences that could traumatize us when we already kind of are working on the subject, and balance, because when we are balanced inside and outside, we have more power and energy to actually work on whatever is showing itself to us. And also the symbols that I create and tattoo for my clients kind of have the same effect on their auric field. Yeah. So yeah, I hope I covered everything. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I wish you a lovely afternoon. Take good care and all my love. Bye bye.